This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. The devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain. Yeah.
Pull up, turn the volume, let the bass ignite. Devil's advocates, that's the channel. Together we fight. They ain't here to echo what the masses preach. They challenge beliefs, putting truth within reach. Flip the script, reverse the lens, ain't no fear to provoke. Unpopular opinions, watch the stagnant water smoke. They dissect the narratives, poke holes in the facade. Sharpening the mind, ain't no truth, no disregard.
This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. Devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain.
See the description hit hard, that's the blueprint to code. Not everyone likes it, but that's the path they strode. Challenging beliefs, that's the mission, the aim. Flipping tables on conventional, fanning intellectual flames. Stepping opposing view, not for conflicts embrace, but to sharpen the blade of truth. Leave no logical trace of error or bias or thoughts that just float. They dig to the core, let the arguments bloat with substance and reason, not just empty retort. They building up thinkers, a mental fortress of thought.
This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. Devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain.
You don't go by always being right, that's a stagnant pool. Growth comes from questioning, breaking every rigid rule. Honest conversations, bold questions, a few uncomfortable facts. They lay it all bare, no turning back, no looking back. Seeking clarity or good debate, either way you win. They push you to understand where your own thoughts begin.
So hit that subscribe button, let the knowledge unfurl.
The devil's advocates,
Changing your whole world.
yeah, it might make you squirm, but that's how you transcend. Listen to the devil's advocates till the very end.
Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know why I'm here today? It's not because I want to give you a pep talk or because I want to make you feel good about yourselves. No, I'm here to tell you the truth.
Hey, welcome back today. I hope everybody is fine and well. I hope you can hear me, get a sound check, make sure that things are going well, because I always screw something up. Oh my gosh, I've screwed some serious things up recently. So hopefully we got that going on. Oh, I don't even have my nice little pretty lights in the background. See, it's discombobulating time. I got to get some lights on. What happened to my effects? And then that's going to pop up some kind of weird shit on my screen in a minute. So let's make sure we got the sound check is good. Thank you, one. So I appreciate that. Shar, welcome in. I'm rarely on a live. Good, Shar. So this is your opportunity to ask me a question, and Robin and I will try to make sure to highlight your questions since you don't get to come on here very much. By the way, I'm going to bring Robin up on you. She's kind of I think, Robin, I can hear you right now, even if you're not sharing the screen with me. You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Sweet. I think everybody should be able to hear you. Robin's helping out as the audio moderator of the channel to make sure that she can call to my attention. So she'd be like, Lee, shut the hell up. You never stop talking. Someone wants to have a question answered. So that's Robin's job, is to keep me honest on that. 1111, Dad gummit, DA. I know I say things that makes people upset. Did you see how people dumped all over my case when I started talking about Dylan the other night? Anyways, this is going to be, let's not talk about Idaho 4. This is going to be a Luigi Manjoni night. Hopefully that's the thumbnail that you saw when you were joining in. And if you don't want to hear about Luigi Manjoni, you are free to go, but don't, because I want you to stay here and get interested in that case as well. Let me remind you that the Devil's Advocates, I'm following 3 cases primarily. That's Luigi Manjoni. That's where it all started. We're going to talk a little bit about whether I've deviated from that, because I've got a few people who are like, man, I miss the old DA when you actually used to be good. You used to talk about Luigi Manjoni. Now you kind of suck when you talk about his Idaho 4. Okay, it didn't quite go that way, but it felt that way. Like, oh, I'm sorry I disappointed you. I have 3 cases I follow. Luigi Manjoni, that was the primary one. I'm going to tell you how that's different than the other cases that I follow. In addition, I follow Rex Heuermann in the Long Island serial killer case, and holy shit, tomorrow is a big day. I've got a big interview scheduled with John Ray, the attorney that represents some of the families in the Long Island serial killer case. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to do that as a pre-recorded video, and then we're going to premiere that later on. And I believe we're going to have Bertie Bombshells and I talk to John Ray, taking live questions and answers after we premiere that interview with just John and I. So that's just a preview look ahead of some things coming. And by the way, the week after that, I got another huge interview in the Long Island serial killer case. So we're getting ahead of ourselves. I said this is about Luigi. Let's now make it about Luigi Manjoni. So Luigi Manjoni's case, in case you don't know, and we'll try to be relatively brief on this, and Robin, feel free to chime in if somebody, by the way, and I need to spend more time saying hi to people. Penny, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for coming in. I mean, welcome to the show. If you're not here all the time, Penny, you're always here. Thank you for supporting the show. Kimberly, thank you so much. One of my mods. Robin's one of my mods, and she's on the microphone as well. Satire, thank you, by the way, for giving support. And I'm glad that there are people here who watch all of the cases I follow, so thank you so much. Cloud, that I see Karen's response. Yes, I'm going to be talking about Karen Ignifolo's response to the prosecution responding to her complaint. It's a back and forth. It's a legal chess game. It's a document chess game. It's a courtroom drama. We're going to talk about that tonight and get into Karen's letter. I'm tempted to read Karen's entire letter, because when she writes, it's like fucking sheer poetry. I love watching that woman chew ass. It is like one of the most enjoyable things in my life. However, you may not enjoy it quite as much as me. So to be fair with you, there's not a whole lot of meat in that letter. It's just a lot of ass chewing. So I'm gonna play it by ear, and whether I'm going to read all of her ass chewing, because it's fun and it's entertaining. But we'll see what happens with that when we get to it. But we will get to that letter. I'm just taking a peek through here to see if there's anybody I want to say hi to again. Satire, thanks for coming. Just looking through here. 1-1's always in the house as the moderator. Watch out for that 1-1 guy. Every once in a while, he drops some free memberships on people. So make sure, if you don't have it turned on already, that you have the ability to accept free memberships. Well, I'll ask 1-1 to stop spending so much money on you guys. But if you want to be able to get that when it happens, or like Crystal White's done it before, or several other people have done it, you need to make sure that you're set up to accept gifts. It's free to you. It's just something that you just have to say that you want to get a free gift, and you might get a free membership and get to look at behind the scenes content. Like, by the way, God, I told you I'm going to talk about Luigi Manjoni. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff you'll get in the behind the scenes videos where I'm talking about what's going on. And there's some crazy stuff that's going on that I guess you'll have to be a member for if you want to see that. Anyways, anybody else? Just kind of scrolling through. Okay. Is there any questions that we have before I get into the official monologue, Robin? Did I miss anything?
Didn't look like it.
Okay, let's do this. Cat Farm's in the house. Thank you for coming in. By the way, I love it, by the way, when you guys tell me where you guys are from. So please, I need to get in the habit, just like Bertie does from time to time. It's really cool seeing how people are coming from. I love it when they're like coming from Washington State, because I grew up in Washington State, all over the Pacific Northwest. I love that stuff, but I love it it's even weirder when they're from Australia and your Germany and your Netherlands and all the where the hell, like South Africa. Like, we got people watching from Missouri. So thank you. I really enjoy watching where all the audience comes from. And even if you told me before, tell me again, because it's just so cool seeing the international audience. Dallas, Texas. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for that. All right. Luigi Manjoni is the alleged shooter. Georgia, thank you, by the way, everything me. Luigi Manjoni is the alleged shooter of Brian Thompson in New York City on the streets of downtown Manhattan on a morning right before an investor conference for the United Healthcare. He was the CEO of the United Healthcare company, the largest insurer in the United States and the largest broker, if you will, of Medicare, Medicaid. I think it's maybe just Medicare, but anyways, maybe Medicaid as well. But anyways, they are a major, they are one of the biggest, okay, they are the biggest player in the insurance industry and some of the stuff tied to our government. So when he was shot and killed on the downtown street of Manhattan by a masked gunman, it was all hands on deck. Everyone in New York was looking for the shooter, who calmly walked across the street, jogged maybe to avoid a car, jumped on an e-bike, rode into Central Park and disappeared, literally vanished. And they looked all over for him, and they had phantoms of multiple people dressed the same way, and he ended up escaping New York City, was on the run for 5 days, allegedly picked up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, in an arrest that was largely illegal. That was not just my opinion, although that was my opinion when I read how the arrest was done. I said, that's an illegal arrest. And then his attorney came out after that and said, hey, by the way, that's an illegal arrest. And then his attorney in New York said, hey, by the way, that was an illegal arrest. And I'm like, fuck, thank you. I said it was an illegal arrest from day one. And all the lawyers are lining up saying that. I've had other lawyers on the channel with me who said, hey, by the way, did you know that was an illegal arrest? I'm like, fuck yeah, I know it was an illegal arrest. We talked about that. So we broke down the law in that case, and I showed you why it was an illegal arrest, and we're talking about it. Now, again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Luigi Manjoni is still in custody. He was basically... custody was transferred over to the state of New York from Pennsylvania. So he was picked up on providing false identification to police officers in Altoona, Pennsylvania, because he said his name was Mark Rosario when his name was actually Luigi Manjoni. They apparently or allegedly believed that they recognized Luigi Manjoni as the shooter in New York, which is amazing since he looked like Jake Gyllenhaal by the only video that I saw of him. So I don't know how they recognized that was Luigi Manjoni, but that's what they said. They knew immediately he was the shooter from New York. And so therefore he provided false identification. They busted him for that. And then after they illegally searched his backpack, they found a weapon that matched the weapon in the crime. And so hauled his ass off to New York State, where he was wanted for murder. In the middle of being processed in New York State, his attorney, so he had an attorney in Pennsylvania that represented him in his basically booking in Pennsylvania. That was Thomas Dickey, or is still Thomas Dickey. Thomas Dickey still represents Luigi Manjoni in the case of Pennsylvania. Now pay attention, because all of this stuff's coming up tonight. The legal play that's happening. Luigi Manjoni has a host of lawyers. The first one being Thomas Dickey in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that was assigned to his case to fight the whole, like, hey, let's take him into his arraignment. Let's see what he's charged with and all those things. And Thomas Dickey remains his attorney in Pennsylvania. However, again, he was quickly extradited to New York for murder. And then he picked up the attorney, Karen Ignifo, and her team from Ignifo InTrader. And so Karen Ignifo is a master lawyer. Many lawyers have one famous lawyer in particular who I used to love watching on TikTok, and I'm no longer really hanging out on TikTok as I used to as much anymore. But Dave Betris, if you're familiar with Betris, Dave called her the Lamborghini of lawyers. She is a freaking amazing lawyer. He has the utmost respect, and I learned that she is indeed one of the top notch, if not the cream of the crop of lawyers in the country. If you want somebody defending you, you want Karen Ignifo and her team. Her husband, Mark Ignifo, crazy enough, was representing P. Diddy in the famous P. Diddy. And crazy enough, P. Diddy and Luigi Manjoni shared the same MDC. Now, whether they were on the same floor or the same wing or the same block, that's debatable. But the point being is that P. Diddy and Luigi Manjoni for a time were in the same prison system in the MDC, Manhattan District. Oh shit, now I just forgot. Detention center. Yes. So anyways, they were in the same detention center, and Mark was representing P. Diddy and co-counsel with his wife on Luigi at the same time. That P. Diddy case is now wrapped up, and Mark Ignifo is working with his wife probably more elaborately now that the P. Diddy case is over. Why am I holding my hand up here like I'm freaking smoking a cigar? Let's put that down. Anyways, the point being is that this is a super duo team. And then they also have Avi Moskowitz. He's a specialist in the death penalty because, as I was starting to say, as I'm refreshing your memory on the Luigi Manjoni case, while Karen Ignifo was representing her client and getting ready to have him arraigned in the state case, the federal government swooped in New York and charged Luigi Manjoni right there on the spot without his attorney knowing it was going to happen, and charged him federally in New York. So Luigi Manjoni faces what is almost an unprecedented situation where he is wanted by and owned by 3 different jurisdictions at the same time. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has essentially what they call primary custodialship over him. They're the ones that first arrested him, and they technically should be going first. However, when the federal government came in 3rd position and swooped in on Luigi Manjoni to charge him with murder and basically announced they are going to seek the death penalty and they're going to execute Luigi Mangione. We'll get to that in a minute. They were in third position, but now they're holding all the cards. They control Luigi Mangione. They control where Luigi Mangione is in custody. Luigi Mangione's attorney is asking for Luigi Mangione to be able to be allowed to travel to Pennsylvania and appear in court on the charges that he's being brought up against in Pennsylvania. The federal government is saying, no, Luigi Mangione is in our custody and he's not fucking going nowhere. He can do that as a Zoom meeting. So now there's this posturing going on between the legal team where his lawyer is saying, by the way, let me cite you the freaking law that states that if you charge Mangione in Pennsylvania and you're the first one to charge him, they are the custodian, not you, and they are required to request you release custodianship. They are the primary custodian. They're the ones who first arrested him. They get to go first. So Thomas Dickey filed some paperwork in Pennsylvania to the court system after he filed. So first of all, Thomas Dickey's first move was to provide paperwork that said, by the way, your arrest was completely illegal and here's why. And it was like 40 something pages. The prosecution, of course, responded, note that arrest was totally legal, and they responded in writing. The judge in Pennsylvania has been sitting on her ass. I think it's a female. I can't remember her name. And I get her mixed up sometimes with the judge in the New York case, so I'm not going to even attempt to say the name. But anyways, that judge sat on their ass, let's just do that, on their ass, and did not rule on whether or not the arrest was legal or not. So again, Thomas Dickey said the arrest was illegal, let my people go. That didn't happen. The prosecution said the arrest was totally illegal, and a judge needs to decide now whether it was legal or not. In the meantime, Karen Ignifo read both sides' response that the judge is refusing to respond to. And she wrote her own opinion and said, oh, by the way, that arrest was 100% illegal. And here's my additional reasons. And Karen is a masterclass. So she ripped ass and I loved it. I did so much of a great video on it. I loved it. Okay, I'm bragging on myself. It was a really good video. I gave her the rage translator. Karen was like, motherfucker, you can't do that. Okay, that was, my interpretation of Karen's thing. So again, Pennsylvania has been quiet on it. Now we have this interesting play of legality. And are they just playing games, or is there a master class of legalism going on here? So let me explain a couple more things real quick before we get into today's meat. Wow, I'm 17 minutes in and I haven't gotten to today's meat. When Luigi Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania, he was surrounded by a wall of police officers who pinned him in a corner. That itself was an illegal detention. They never informed Luigi Mangione he was under arrest. They never informed him he was under investigation. Nowhere for about 17 minutes did they ever tell him anything about why he was being detained. On this wall of cops, they maintained Luigi Mangione was free to leave at any time he wanted to. He didn't have to stay there. He could have left. However, body-worn camera footages, just from the screenshots we've seen, they haven't released the actual body-worn cameras, but from the screenshots we've seen, there was no physically human way that Luigi Mangione could have pushed past a cop without touching him, and they would have called that assault, and they would have thrown him on the ground, and they would have cuffed him for assaulting an officer. There was no way Luigi Mangione could have got past him. Both their attorneys said that was an illegal detention. Anyone in their right mind would know that he was not free to leave by the wall of police officers surrounding him in the corner. In addition to that, they took his backpack and they separated him from it. Again, before reading his Miranda rights, before telling him he has the right to remain silent, before telling him he was under investigation for anything, and they searched his bag. When they searched his bag and they realized that there was a gun inside the bag and there was a notebook, they immediately went, oh shit, we're illegally searching this bag. They repacked the bag. And then an officer on scene who had a little bit more seniority said, by the way, has anybody read Luigi Mangione his rights? And they said no. And he's like, for fuck's sake, Luigi Mangione, you have the right to remain silent. Now do you want to tell us your name's Mark Rosario? And Luigi Mangione shut up, clammed up, didn't talk to them ever again, and that was it. That was the case may be. Now the attorney in Pennsylvania is arguing everything that happened before that, before you read him his rights, is inadmissible. You had to have informed him before you started searching his bag, before you put him under arrest, before you started telling him that he had spread you false information. That had to have been known up front that he was under investigation, and so therefore everything that he said up to the point that he shut his mouth is inadmissible. Now some of you felt that's a technicality. Oh, if he admitted it, he admitted it. Whatever the case may be, that's what's on the table. Now, where are we going with this? So at some point, I feel that Thomas Dickey and Karen Ignifo are working together. I feel like this is not completely done without each other's knowledge. Thomas Dickey filed a request that basically stated, so Thomas Dickey wrote to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and said, the prosecution has a responsibility to at least attempt to claim habeas corpus, basically the right to own Luigi Mangione. They need to lick their product and say, this is mine. I licked it first, it's mine. They need to say that about Luigi Mangione. They need to say, we arrested Luigi Mangione first. You guys can all wait until we bring him up on these gun charges and false identification charges in Pennsylvania, and then you guys can go after him for murder. And the Pennsylvania Commonwealth is okay with letting the murder trial go first because they view the arrest about the gun and whatever as a no, never mind. The big charge is the murder. So they're like, who cares whether or not who cares if it was an illegal arrest or not? Who cares? He's up for murder. So you guys try him for murder. So Thomas Dickey played a masterclass type move and said, look, the law states that when you're the arresting authority and you have primary custody, you must at least request that they turn him over to you so that you can finish your case. And by the way, there's a time on that. There's a time limit. You must do it within a certain amount of time. I think it's less than 1 year. It's about 1 year. But they must do it, and they must do it in that time frame, or they must dismiss the charges against Luigi Mangione. Now, that makes a really interesting case, because if they dismiss the charges against Luigi Mangione, then he didn't have a confession letter, and he didn't have a gun, and he didn't have anything that they say he did. He didn't provide false identification. None of that would be admissible in court, and none of it would be usable in New York as well. So he basically put pressure on them to say, do this. Now, the federal government before the judge, because the judge is just sitting on their ass in Pennsylvania, before the judge ruled on it, New York weighs in and says, absolutely not. We will not release custody of Luigi Mangione to Pennsylvania. You guys can pack sand, but they have to formally request it. And so that did happen. Thomas Dickey actually put pressure on the district attorney in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Am I boring the piss out of you with this legal stuff? Anyways, the point being is that he did put pressure on them, and they actually did it. The district attorney actually wrote a letter that said, hey, federal government, please remand Luigi Mangione into the custody of Pennsylvania so that we can bring him up on charges in Pennsylvania. We have the legal obligation to ask for it. The federal government again told them, pack sand. He's ours, and he can appear by Zoom. So that's a fight that's going on. Is the whole argument about whether Luigi Mangione can be physically present in a courtroom in Pennsylvania really all that important? Could he not do good enough just being on a Zoom call? I don't know. It feels almost a little kind of petty, because does it really matter at the end of the day whether Luigi Mangione is literally there? But by law, you have the right to face your accusers in person, face to face, and therefore Luigi Mangione has the right to be in that courtroom in Pennsylvania. So that's been requested, and they're trying to fight his right to do that. Now, here's the best part. When the federal government, or when somebody finally says, no, we will not release custody, I expect Karen Ignifo to come in with her counter. So at the point that it's put in writing, no, we, the federal marshals, for example, will not transport Luigi Mangione, because that's one of the things the marshals do. They transport prisoners of high caliber from one state to another. So if Luigi Mangione needed to go someplace, the federal marshals would have to take him, and they're like, we're not going to take him, and nor are we going to release custody of him so that you can take him. So what do you do now? Well, I think Karen Ignifo probably is going to file some kind of new move that says, by the way, you're required, when somebody has requested him to go to Pennsylvania, to let him go. So I'm waiting for that, and I think that's going to be exciting. Now, I don't know if all of you guys get excited about those kind of legal things like I do, but it excites me. I love educating the public on how those legal processes work. Robin, I haven't taken a breath in 5 minutes. Is there anything I need to address yet?
No, just a lot of people agreeing about his rights being violated. Luigi Revolution has, commented about that. Several people have, and it's absolutely right. It's just ridiculous.
Right. And at the end of the day, this is one of those things you have to be careful about. The Devil's Advocates channel is, for me, my channel is about protecting your civil liberties, your constitutional rights, making sure that law enforcement is held accountable and that they didn't do illegally things and had to violate our rights to get the bad guy. Whether or not Luigi Mangione is or isn't the shooter, it doesn't really matter as much to me. Whether or not Brian Kohberger in that case is or isn't the single killer isn't all that is important to me. What's important to me is that law enforcement didn't have to do illegal shit and break and violate our civil liberties to get the bad guy. That's not acceptable to me at all. So in these cases, how you feel about the bad guy, per se, whether you feel Luigi Mangione is a horrible human being who shot an innocent man in the back and father of two and all the things that the media wants to tell you, if that's how you feel about him, that's okay. And you can still get something out of my channel, in my opinion, because you're going to learn how the law works and how you, just because you know somebody's a bad guy or you feel somebody's a bad guy, doesn't mean that you can violate their constitutional rights all day long and make it worse for us in America. Because if they ever go after the wrong guy and they can violate your rights 6 ways to Sunday, then what happens to you if you're not guilty and they can break the law to get you? It's a scary, scary entire world. And again, I pointed out before, and I'll point it out again, if they will violate Luigi Mangioni's constitutional rights, like I believe they've done 4 times already in this case, and his lawyers pointed out 4 times in which they violated his constitutional rights. If they'll do that when the entire world is watching, and I assure you, the entire world in some regards is watching Luigi Mangioni. By that I mean, yes, there are people out there who don't know who Luigi Mangioni is, but there are literally countries all over the world who watch American news to see what's happening with Luigi Mangioni, because it's a case of international interest. So if they will violate his constitutional rights when the entire world is watching, what will they do to the little guy who has no chance to hire a Karen Ignifo? It should scare the piss out of you, in my opinion. So let's talk about some of the legal issues in this case. I'm going to pull up an article and try to get it on screen, and just show you a few things. Let me, I don't know why I'm singing, but hey, let's put this up on screen. Add this to the stage. All right, News Nation, you may or may not be a fan. News Nation has this article, Luigi Mangioni's attorneys push for fucking pop-up ads. Let's go, no thanks. All right, let's try that again. Luigi Mangioni's attorney pushes for in-person court appearances. That's what we just talked about. Thomas Dickey's asking for in-person court appearances. I don't think there's anything specific. Let's get the red hot off the screen as well. That's just distracting. So this is an article so I didn't have time. Here's the thing. My life has become a freaking shit show lately. I've got so much going on. I didn't have time to highlight the important parts on here, but I just wanted to highlight, this is a good article, a good premise for being able to find out. Matter of fact, would it help anybody for me to paste the link? I don't know if you care about the link. But anyways, if you want to read the article, this is basically covering this back and forth fight between Thomas Dickey and Luigi Mangioni, and asking, here's the Rule 600, why Thomas Dickey is claiming it can't be used. They're talking about basically who has primary custodial rights over Luigi Mangioni. And again, what is the master plan here? I'm not entirely sure, but it's going to be super interesting. And when we get more into where we're really going to get interesting is when Karen Ignifo responds, when the government says we're not going to let Luigi Mangioni go. So is it at the end of the day all posturing and games? I don't know. But let's go into Karen Ignifo's latest what her thing is. So what happened with Karen is today, I love the timing on this. Today, Karen Ignifo dropped a new letter. We'll get that on screen here in a second. And basically, let me set this up. So there was one of the violations of Luigi Mangioni's constitutional rights is a violation of HIPAA. Now this one, if you haven't heard this before, is nutso. And that is, HIPAA relates to your private medical information between you and your doctor. That's supposed to be extremely, extremely confidential. There's areas where your own family can't get your HIPAA information. They can't just, even a spouse can't just go and ask the doctor for everything about her husband. There's protections against that kind of shit because they view your personal doctor-client relationship as very, very, very serious and is protected under HIPAA laws. What the district attorney, the assistant district attorney, and there was a couple of them that were involved in this. There was multiple assistant district attorneys, Seidman and Kaplan, who were under Bragg being the district attorney, and then the assistants Kaplan and Seidman, I believe, Joel Seidman. So Joel decided to he found out that Luigi Mangioni was a client of Aetna, an insurance company, and he wanted to get, supposedly, just the date of birth, the dates that Luigi Mangioni was a client of Aetna or used them as insurance, and just some basic information. And so he asked for that. And that sounds all completely innocent until you realize that what he did, this is a assistant district attorney of the Southern District of New York. What he did is he lied about a court date and said, by the way, you, Aetna, must provide us the following information about Luigi Mangioni because you're being subpoenaed by the Southern District of New York in court to appear on this day in the courtroom and provide the following information about Luigi Mangioni. All of that was a 100% lie. Joel Seidman completely made it up. There was no court date. There was no subpoena, and there was no requirement for Aetna to provide the information to him. He lied about the entire thing. Karen Ignifo lost her shit, as she should have. Aetna then provided the information because here's what Joel Seidman also did in his sneaky ass way. By the way, you're required to come in court or or you'll be held in contempt of court and you'll have legal consequences, possibly jail time if you don't provide this information. All of that was a lie as well, because there was no court date and there was no subpoena issued by the court. It was all 100% a lie by the district attorney. He threatened them with jail time if they didn't respond to a fake court date. I can't make that shit up. That's what happened. So Aetna responded and gave the district, because the district attorney said, by the way, if you'd like to avoid going into the courthouse and delivering it in person, you can just send me Luigi Mangioni's information personally and privately to my email. And guess what? That's what they did. Karen Ignifo states that she knows that it wasn't just a request in writing. There was phone calls made by him to say, hey, you could cut a corner here if you just send me that information privately to my email. And they responded to that. So that was another thing that kind of came out. It wasn't just an email requesting it, but it was also a, hey, here's a phone call. You know, you could just send this information to me in email and everything would be great, because he didn't want it to go to the courthouse. If it had gone to the courthouse, the judge would have looked at it and said, what subpoena? I haven't issued a subpoena. And what the hell is this date? There's no date on the court for this. That shit would get somebody in major trouble. So what happened then was Aetna responded, but they responded with over-the-top evidence. They didn't just give him what he asked for. They gave him 120, I think, pages of Luigi Mangioni's personal client doctor documents about what him and his doctor were talking about, the conditions that he has, what he was being treated for and seen for, and that is all protected by HIPAA.
DA,
yeah,
is that something that they can go after them for? I mean, the lawyers that they can, that's prosecution, exactly, can they do anything to them about this?
That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. And Karen Ignifo is going after them, and and so we're getting there. Thank you. We're getting there. I know I'm slow to the punchline. So. Yes, so they got all this information, which, by the way, at the top of the file that they were sent said right at the top, confidential HIPAA related information. It was a big, huge warning. Every single page was, this is HIPAA related information. Anyone who knows anything about HIPAA, as soon as you see HIPAA on there and you realize that you obtained it illegally, needs to stop fucking looking at it immediately and go, oh my God, what did I just do here? Now, what they did is they went through the file and then they basically read the file in its entirety and then said, oh, when we realized it was HIPAA information and got done looking at it, we went ahead and sent it back to them and said, hey, this is more than we asked for. But the damage was done and you can't let the cat out of the bag. And Karen basically filed a giant letter to the judge in New York State, Judge Caro, stating, this is what they did. The guy lied about a subpoena that didn't exist and a court date that didn't exist and asked for documents that didn't exist. They called them on the phone then and said, by the way, you can send it to me in private email. And they got Luigi's personal information and then they went through it. And after doing all of that shit illegally, they tried to say, oops, you know what? All we asked for was the dates of coverage, not all this extra stuff. So when we realized our mistake, we sent it back. No harm, no foul. Karen is saying, absolutely, that's horseshit. Then what happened was when she filed a letter to the judge saying what they just did was horseshit. It was illegal. It's a violation of HIPAA. Somebody should be fired. She recommended, by the way, the district attorney actually be disbarred, sent to jail, whatever the case may be. It was that bad. She was like, that guy should be kicked off the case at a minimum, possibly sent to jail. That is a huge issue. So the prosecution, before the judge has ruled on it, then responded, and we're getting to today's letter. So the prosecution responded to Karen. Well, I should say this. The prosecution's responding to the judge. So Karen wrote a letter to the judge. What the prosecution just did was horseshit. The district attorney just violated our client's constitutional rights. The prosecution then wrote a letter to the same judge saying, no, we did not violate his rights. And here's the simple mistake that happened. No big deal. And now today, Karen files the letter in response to their letter saying, no, you fucking did violate his constitutional rights. And it is a big deal. And the judge better fucking do something about it, or you can go ahead and dismiss all the charges against my client. Which one do you want to do? Now, that doesn't mean that Karen's going to get her way, but that's some of the history of what's going on. Now, I'm going to pull up her letter on the screen. And let's, how do we do that? How do we do that, sir? This? Yeah. Okay. So let me break down a few things for you as well. So this is her actual letter. And if you don't know where this comes from, I could put this up on the screen, and I don't know if I need to, but LuigiMangioniInfo.com is the website. LuigiMangioniInfo.com is a website maintained by Luigi Mangioni's attorneys. Let's take a peek at it real quick. Let's pull it up. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a browser tab. And I'm going to pull it over to here. And we're going to go Luigi. Shit. Luigi Manjoni. Oh wow! How come my chat history is okay? Hold on. I'm trying to get something that would automatic populate, which is also very scary because who knows what the hell I've searched for that you don't want to know. You don't like. You might need therapy if you see this by pre-populated search criteria. But anyways, this is LuigiManjoniInfo.com. This is the website maintained by Karen Ignifo and her team. And if you look here, they've got a lot of stuff on here. But one of this is all the court cases. Here are the 3 court cases, the jurisdictions that Luigi Manjoni is facing, and the dates of new things, the new next court dates are coming up. And then you have court documents and letters. So this is, I just wanted to let you know where this letter is coming from. Here's the federal case. That's the state of New York. Or sorry, not the state. That's the Southern District of New York versus Luigi Manjoni. U.S. versus Luigi Manjoni is the case number right there. Then there's the state of New York. That's the one that we're dealing with in this letter. Karen Ignifo is writing a letter to George Caro in the state of New York about the shit that the district attorney is doing against her client. And then we've got the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and all of that case update. So that's where this comes from. And if you look, here's the date 8/19. This just dropped. If I click on it, there it is right there. But we're going to jump over to this so that we can look at it after I've highlighted it so for your attention. Now, what's funny is I was going to highlight just the important parts of the letter. So let me scroll through and show you what I thought was the important parts. So yeah, I mean, whatever fucking Karen says, I find is important. Unfortunately, it's because she's funny. She chews people's ass, and I don't know where to stop reading her words. But this is what it is. We write in reply to the prosecution's August 8th response to counsel's July 17th response. What does that mean? She complained on July 17th they violated her client's constitutional rights. The prosecution responded on August 8th saying, no, we did not. And so she's saying, now that's my response to that shit. While attempting to justify its inappropriate use of the prosecution's subpoena power, because that's what happened. The prosecutor inappropriately used his power saying, I'm the district attorney, I'm the assistant district attorney, and you are required by law to provide this information to me. And it was a lie. There was no subpoena. He just made that shit up. So she's saying, while attempting to justify his inappropriate use of the prosecution's subpoena power, the district attorney's office purposely ignored the counsel's primary concern, that at least one prosecutor improperly viewed Mr. Manjoni's protected medical records and that the prosecution received from Aetna. As the assistant District Attorney Zachary Kaplan, so there's Joel Seidemann and Zachary Kaplan, as Kaplan noted in his June 24th email to the court, first addressing this issue, he wrote, quote, upon first looking at the files and observing the number of pages, but before reviewing the files in their entirety, I realized that this appeared to contain a significant amount of materials, and I stopped looking at the files and obtained and reviewed the subpoena. And that was, cited by her. This email confirms that Assistant District Attorney Kaplan reviewed at least a portion of Mr. Manjoni's protected medical records, but fails to disclose how many of the files he reviewed or what he reviewed or what the reviewed files contained. This calculated lack of transparency is concerning, as the files that Aetna produced contained medical diagnosis and statements made by Manjoni to the healthcare providers to receive medical care and treatment. Now, where's this all going? What she's saying is, at the end of the day, all Karen's asking for at the moment is for an investigation by the judge. She's asking the judge to look into how much did they really look at it. Because she's saying, look, you can go require them to show you the phone calls that they made to Aetna. You can require them to show you every email they've ever sent to Aetna. You can require Aetna to show any log that they have that they got called by the assistant district attorney's office and all communications. And she wants that investigation done. Because right now, all the prosecution is saying is, hey, we realized what we did and we said, oops, our bad, and immediately stopped looking at it. And she's like, no, an investigation needs to be done and a hearing needs to be held on just what they did to make sure that somebody doesn't need to go to jail at this point, and that somebody doesn't need to be disbarred, and maybe you guys need to start your whole fucking case over again. And so that's the shit she's playing at that level. She's like, let's see if somebody needs to go to jail. So why don't you, judge, do the right thing and investigate what they just did? The district attorney, so this is what I call my gift, is putting in plain language what she's trying to say, which is that somebody might need to go to jail, judge, so let's get this done. The district attorney's office has had multiple opportunities to explain the extent of the ADA Kaplan's review of Mr. Manjoni's protected medical records, including when someone from the district attorney's office spoke with the media after the counsel's July 17th letter to the court, and in its formal August 8th response to the counsel's July 17th letter. Nevertheless, despite these opportunities, the district attorney's office continues to refuse to acknowledge to the court or counsel the full extent of its improper review of Mr. Manjoni's medical records. For this reason alone, the court should conduct an evidentiary hearing as requested in their letter. So she's saying, do an investigation, judge. Require them to turn over all of their history, all of their logic, all of their emails and phone call logs, so you can see if they broke the law. That's what you need to do. You have to. What's that?
Rhonda just became a member.
Is that can't be my Rhonda, right? Has that thing? I don't even think.
I don't know. It says welcome to Devils.
Yeah, and it might be because she said she lost her membership because it's a long story, but I don't know if it's Rhonda or if it's a different Rhonda. So Rhonda, thanks for becoming a member. If you're my wife, you're hearing me yell from the other room, but I thought you were in there sleeping because you were feeling well. But anyways, thanks for Rhonda becoming a member. All right, so. Additionally, there's a gaping factual chasm that exists between the explanations provided by the district attorney's office and Aetna. The letter publicly insists that they behaved appropriately. So the prosecution said, hey, we did everything appropriate in response to the subpoena. Oh, sorry, Aetna. Aetna said they did everything appropriate in response to the subpoena. Now, here's the tricky part. This is super, super complex. And again, I don't know if you guys appreciate this legal shit. What in writing, all the district attorney the assistant district attorney asked in their illegal threat of you're being subpoenaed was for basic information. When was he a client of yours, and what was the number, the case number or the file number that Luigi Manjoni used? That's all they asked for. Aetna gave them much more than that. What Karen is implying is the reason they gave them much more than that isn't because because it was a mistake on Aetna's part, but because they were phone called and told to give more. And so the prosecution's playing a game, she says, by saying all we asked for is a date and a file name, and they accidentally gave us his whole file. That's their problem. And they've literally, the assistant district attorney, after lying about the court date, after lying about the subpoena that didn't exist, after threatening them with contempt of court if they didn't provide it, now is throwing it under the bus and saying, oh, they fucked up. They gave us too much information. That's on them. It's not our problem. Yet Karen's saying that's bullshit. You made phone calls to them and you told them. So judge, subpoena the person who took the phone call from the ADA's office and have them tell you what they said to him or her when they called asking for those files to be sent over. So it's just, do you follow that? Is anybody in on this legal shit, or am I boring the piss out of everybody? All right.
Oh, no, you're not boring at all. Everybody's into it.
Good. Because sometimes I just don't know if legal shit is interesting to everybody else. But
no, there's a bunch of questions in the chat, but I know you probably want to finish this.
Well, we can take some questions.
Okay.
Yeah. What do we got?
Well, one has quite a few. The last one was, what is the legal viability of the multiple charges, including murder and the furtherance of terrorism?
What is the legal viability of the multiple charges, including murder and the further? So that is a hard one, sir. Karen Ignifo, one of her main positions has been from day one, you're overcharging Luigi Manjoni. I've had an attorney on my show multiple times, Ali Benevento, criminal defense attorney in Southern California. And also early in my case on Luigi Manjoni, I had a friend named Cynthia Thornton who came on, an attorney in Texas and New York. And they both these other attorneys said, they are clearly overcharging Luigi Manjoni. They're essentially charging him for the same crime in the state of New York and in the USA versus Luigi Manjoni in the Southern District of New York, and they're double charging him for the same thing. The reason they're doing that, by the way, and so the ultimate question to your answer to your question is, what is the viability of it? Karen is saying it's a horseshit maneuver to overcharge him. So she's already made that argument. But again, all the judges in this case seem to be waffling and wanting to make any kind of commitment on whether or not Karen is correct when she says that's horseshit, you can't do that. And they're all like, let's think about it for a while longer. This is why the case is stagnant. This is why people bust my nuts sometimes saying, DA, you never talk about this case anymore. And that's because everybody's dragging their feet. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody's afraid to rule on it because they're afraid of making a colossal mistake. But anyways, at the end of the day, here's the deal. The reason why the federal government is charging him is because New York State doesn't execute anybody. New York State doesn't believe in the death penalty, essentially. They haven't executed anybody for a very long time. And so the federal government, under the direction of the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who she believes is she's taking directions from Donald Trump, who she said Donald Trump has instructed her to be tough on crime and start killing criminals that are worthy of the death penalty. And if anyone in the country is worthy of the death penalty, it's Luigi Manjoni. That was Pam Bondi's statement. I've been directed by Donald Trump to start reinstituting the death penalty in this country and holding people accountable. And if there's anyone who deserves death, it's Luigi Manjoni. Now, that in itself is an asinine statement because, as Karen Ignifo pointed out, after Pam Bondi did that, how is it that over 300 people were murdered in New York last year, but the only person worthy of death is Luigi Mangione? And what's the difference between any of those other murders and Luigi Mangione's alleged killing, other than Brian Thompson was the CEO of United Healthcare? And why is it that you find it more that that Brian Thompson's life is more valuable than anyone else's life in New York City? Do you not realize you're insulting an entire population to say the only person who's worthy of seeking the death penalty is the death of a CEO of a healthcare company? What does that say? What does that say, people? That the only thing you think is the only person in the country worthy of being put to death is somebody who killed a CEO? Because we're not supposed to be treating that person any more special than everybody else. So it was a great move by her. But again, at the end of the day, while Karen Ignifo has filed all kinds of legal documents stating that they're overcharging, and she has postured and she's requested multiple times for the state to drop their case and have the federal government be the only case Luigi has to fight right now. The reason being, as she said, look, the federal government's case, they want to kill Luigi Mangione. So let's just put the big one on the table, and everything else is superficial. Go for the biggest one and drop everything else, and let's focus on one court case because, as Karen stated, it's a violation of my client's constitutional rights to make him fight two different jurisdictions that both have two slightly different theories about why Luigi Mangione did it and how he did it, and yet he has to defend himself in two court systems at the same time. That's not fair to her client, because in defending himself in one court system, he may prejudice himself in the other court system. So she's saying, look, this is unprecedented for him to have to defend himself in two court systems at the same time with two different theories, where anything he says in one could be used against him in the other. So I don't know if that answers one's question, but the answer to what is the viability, that's being ruled. That's what we're waiting on a judge to rule on. Is Karen Ignifo says this is not viable. You can't do this. It's not fair to my client to have to fight two different court systems, three if you count the Pennsylvania one, three different jurisdictions at the same time. Nobody can defend that. That's too much. Pick one of these jurisdictions and let everybody else pack sand and wait until it's done. And so that's what she's asked for. Ultimately Karen's asking for the state case to be dropped entirely, and for the U.S. government to just say we'll be the only ones to try him. Well, and this is not regarding Pennsylvania at all. In New York, she wants the state to drop the case. The New York's position, by the way, New York responded in writing saying, absolutely, we will not drop the case. We have the right to prosecute him first, and we will prosecute him first, and the federal government can just wait. Meanwhile, you have to ask yourself, why is Luigi Mangione in custody at the federal government if the state's going first? Why isn't he in state custody? Well, for those who haven't heard me say this for a long time, if you're a Luigi Mangione supporter in any way, shape, or form, you might want to be thankful that Luigi Mangione is being held by the federal government and not the state. Because if the state took possession of Luigi Mangione while they're trying him, they will send him to Rikers. A lot of people believe that Rikers is a far, far worse prison system to be in. So therefore, Luigi Mangione is probably safer in federal custody at MDC, where he's got a better prison system, than going to Rikers Island. And in fact, that's one of the things the judge actually threatened when they were posturing back and forth on who had rights over Luigi Mangione. He says, well, fine. If you want the state to take over, I can always send him to Rikers Island. It was like a threat. I could always send him to Rikers Island if you want. And they're like, no, you know what? We're okay with Luigi Mangione being in federal custody and letting you guys hold him, because then he's not going to Rikers Island. All right. Going back to the letter, basically what it comes down to, again, is just that what Karen's pointing out in the letter is, look, the prosecution's response was, we accidentally got too much information from Aetna, and that's on Aetna. Aetna made a mistake. They sent us too much. When we saw that they'd given us too much, we immediately sent it back to them and stopped looking at the file. Karen is pointing out on this letter, that doesn't address what you just did, which you illegally told Aetna that they were under subpoena by the court, which was not true, to appear and provide you information by a certain date that wasn't true, that they were going to be held in contempt of court if they didn't provide it to you, which wasn't true. And then when you got the file, which I think you also asked for more than you're saying you did, and looked at it and reviewed it, then you're trying to say, oops, they're bad. They gave us too much information. No harm, no foul. And she's saying to the judge, are you just going to fucking ignore? Are you just going to ignore how they did that? illegally threatening Aetna with lawsuits and contempt of court and a subpoena that didn't exist for a court. You're going to ignore all of that because their response is, hey, when we got the file, they gave us too much. It's their fault. Like that's what this letter is. Everything that you just responded to doesn't address the big problem. The constitutional violation for asking too much is one of them. The violations of lying about the subpoena that didn't exist and a court date that doesn't exist. Somebody needs to be disbarred and go to jail. So that's where we're at right now. Now, some people have stated, as I'm wrapping up, is there any new questions, by the way? Because I think I'm done with this letter. Is there any other ones, Robin, on this?
Let me see. Satire asks, do you feel the defense is looking at an insanity plea by pressing hard on the HIPAA violation?
100% not. 100% no insanity defense. Let me get on my high horse about this one. So first of all, when a person makes an insanity defense, you usually have to announce that very, very early in the case. Look, my client is suffering from some kind of mental issue. We need to have a psych evaluation done. They are not capable of doing something because they have some kind of mental issue, an insanity issue. Even in a temporary insanity issue, that kind of stuff is talked about early in the case. There is no indication they're ever going that way. Now, here's what gets confusing about this case. And Satire, I'm glad you gave me this opportunity to talk about some stuff we haven't talked about for a long time. Before Karen Ignifo was ever appointed as Luigi Manjoni's attorney, she was asked about the case early on, about the shooter and the case against Luigi Manjoni. She was not his representative at the time. Early on, when asked on TV about what she thought about the shooter's position in court, she said they're going to probably have to go for an insanity defense. There really is not, I don't see how you have anything else left other than insanity defense. They've got too much against him. That's what Karen said before she became his attorney. When she became his attorney, that all changed. Lately, Karen Ignifo has asked for things like, and has been granted, by the way, she's asked for Luigi Manjoni to be provided a laptop in prison to help and get access to that laptop 8 hours every single day to help in the review of his own documents so that he can assist in his defense. You cannot do that and say he's got any kind of insanity going on, any kind of mental capacity. You cannot say that your client is both simultaneously capable of helping you in his own defense and say that he's got mental health issues. So you can take off the idea, I think, in my opinion, that there's any kind of insanity thing. And you can't do the temporary insanity thing because, again, the government is trying to say Luigi Manjoni hunted and stalked Brian Thompson for a period of months and picked that target and then traveled across state lines to come get them. There's no temporary insanity in I picked this guy, I traveled across state lines to go shoot him. Cannot be a temporary insanity. So there's no long-term insanity case here, and there's no temporary insanity case here. That's my opinion. If that was, again, if it would have been an insanity defense, he wouldn't have been helping out with his own defense. That was the move that proved to me they're not going for an insanity defense. So I hope that makes sense. That's my opinion. Any other questions there?
One had another good question. How will this case impact the future of healthcare industry and the dialogue surrounding it? I think that's really interesting.
Well, this is the reason why this case is probably the most important case in America, in my opinion. It's not just, in my opinion, about a man who shot another man on the street of New York. This literally could be what I call what do I call it? I call it a landmark case. A landmark case in America. This may change things in America fundamentally because now here's my logic. Now I've had attorneys, I'll tell you, I've had my attorney friend, Ali Benevento, doesn't agree with what I'm going to say exactly the way I word it, but I'm just going to keep wording it the way I'm saying because I feel it's still a case. And even Ali, when pressed, will say, you may be right. I don't think you're right, but you may be right. So maybe she's just doing that to be polite, or maybe she really thinks there's a possibility I'm right. So let me tell you how I think this is going to play. If Luigi
donated 5 memberships.
Woo! Thank you so much, 11. I don't even know what I highlight this, but I got to go back and highlight the thing. 11, thank you for giving gifts again, dude. You are unstoppable. You are on fire. So, anyways, if you had those memberships turned on, remember you might have just gotten a free membership to look at some free content on the backhand side. Let's go back to the question though about the whole. It wasn't just the insanity offense. It was the how this case could be a landmark case. If this case becomes at any point of them somehow admitting that Luigi Manjoni actually was the shooter. Because remember, there's a couple ways the defense could go on this. The defense can go, our guy didn't do it, and all of that stuff, the confession letter, the gun that's on him, all of that stuff is not even his. It was planted on him, whatever. If they do something like that and say, this isn't the right guy, you got the wrong guy, prove it was the right guy, that's one type of defense. And that may be what a lot of people think has to happen here. The only chance he has is to say, prove that I was actually there in New York and that it was me holding the gun. That's what you're going to have to prove. Is that what they're doing? I feel like it's going to be slightly different. They might get to the point, and I feel like I've seen them laying the groundwork. Karen Ignifo has already called the healthcare system in this country a predatory healthcare system. That was me going, oh, yep, she's doing exactly what I think she's going to do, which is essentially an attempt to put the United States healthcare system on trial. Now, when I say that, I myself will even tell you, no judge in their right mind is going to try to allow that. If Karen Ignifo tries to put the American healthcare system on trial in this case, the prosecution is going to say, Your Honor, I object. This isn't about the American healthcare system. They're not the one on trial here. Luigi Manjoni's on trial for killing Brian Thompson. End of story. End of story. And so I expect that most judges will say sustained. This isn't about the healthcare system. It's about, did Luigi shoot Brian Thompson? Yes or no? But when you come to those kind of questions, you have to ask, why did he shoot Brian Thompson if he did? Now, if the defense actually goes towards the move of saying, yeah, Luigi did it, but here's why he did it, now the American healthcare system can be put on trial. Why did he do it? Because Luigi Manjoni might have felt, there may be a scenario in which Luigi Manjoni may have felt by killing one man, he can change the policies of a predatory healthcare system that was killing thousands of people. And therefore, by doing it, he was saving lives. And his twisted logic, as some of you may say, he may have felt that he was trying to save lives, in which case now the case becomes some kind of weird version of self-defense or defense of others, which could be a landmark case. And if you think that I'm a little nuts on this, I want to point out that I've got a video about a show called Law and Order, which did an episode called Folk Hero. It was about Luigi Manjoni. I believe the guy's name, the fictional character's name, was Ethan something in the fictional show Law and Order. In Law and Order, by the way, as an interesting aside, Karen Ignifo, who is Luigi Manjoni's attorney, is an advisor to Law and Order. Get your mind wrapped around that shit. Okay, so as documentaries are coming out, 5 or 6 documentaries are coming out painting Luigi Manjoni as this murderer of an innocent man and father of 2 and telling America every single day, this man is guilty of murder. He's a piece of shit. Luigi Manjoni has been slandered all over every documentary, with police officers coming out and saying, we know it's Luigi Manjoni. Luigi Manjoni killed that guy. Karen was like, oh my God, you guys, stop already. You've been telling America he's guilty from day one, and you guys never even stepped into the courtroom yet. So stop it. So maybe Karen, as an advisor of Law and Order, did a little tit-a-tat, if you will. And basically a fictional episode came out about the shooter, in which it depicted the shooter who kills a CEO in the downtown streets of New York as being loved by the people, because he's not doing it for some kind of weird ass reason other than he believes that the healthcare system is a predatory system. And in that episode of Law and Order, they talk about how and it's the real things that happened in this case. United Healthcare had been hiring a CEO to make their shareholders more money. One of the things he did was he implemented AI to reject more claims for people. Because if you reject more claims, the insurance company pays out less money, and then their shareholders make more money. That's what Brian Thompson did. He implemented AI, and they were having an unprecedented rejection rate, basically rejecting people's claims for things that they should be getting covered by their insurance. But it made shareholders a lot of money. And in the fictional show, they said the same thing. This guy was shot because he implemented AI, which was rejecting people's claims. What happened in that fictional episode was at some point it became a defense of others case. What the attorney said was, because of this person's policies, X number of people are dying every single day in America. Is it really such a shame that one man was killed on the streets of New York when thousands of people are dying every single day because of his policies? And therefore, if this changed things in America, how many people would be alive today that aren't alive? How many people would be walking the streets today that aren't walking the streets today because we changed things in America? And in that show, the fictional show, you had this great judge that was like, I want to hear this play out. Now, do I think that's going to happen in a real court of law? Fuck no. But it was interesting because the judge was like, you know what? Because here's what they argued. Follow the logic. many states say, if I'm standing on a street corner and I watch somebody across the street beating somebody with a baseball bat, I can stop that beating. And if doing so, I accidentally or even purposely kill that person beating somebody to death right in front of me, that's a defense of others. And I can be not held accountable. I can go to court and I can win that case to say, look, he was killing somebody right in front of me, and I tried to stop him. And yeah, he lost his life. And yeah, you can prove I'm the one that shot him while he was beating somebody to death. And so I can't argue that. I shot him and I killed him. Yeah, you're right. But it was in defense of others. And a lot of places, you can't be held accountable for that. That's the same as if they came at you with the baseball bat and you shot them to keep them from beating you. You're allowed to not only protect yourself, but those in your presence. Now, in the fictional story, what they said was this case, this law of defense of others has never really been used to defend somebody who isn't in your presence. But it doesn't preclude that either. It doesn't say you can't do that. So what they're arguing is, look, if this shooter killed this person to save thousands of lives, nobody said those people had to be standing right in front of him and he had to witness it happening right in front of his face to get the defense of others. He could be defending others who are not in their presence because the law doesn't stipulate you have to be standing in front of them. And the judge said, that's a really good argument. It wasn't written to do this particular thing, but I'd like to see that play out. If that kind of shit happens, this will be a landmark case in America. It'll change law forever. But we'll see. Again, I've had attorneys that say that's real. That's a stretch. I don't know how you're going to get any attorney who's going to win that argument, because no judge is going to say it's okay for, like in the fictional show, the judge was like, I want to see that play out. In reality, the judge is going to be like, sustained. This is not an argument of the healthcare system being put on trial. But can Karen Ignifo and her masterclass legal team with tons and tons of money somehow make this about the American healthcare system? And I would counter, can the dream team for O.J. Simpson turn this into not a case about whether O.J. killed Nicole, but whether or not there's racist cops in the LAPD? You didn't think it could happen there either, but it's the same kind of situation. O.J. Simpson is on trial for killing Nicole Simpson, Your Honor. We're not going to talk about whether or not there's racist cops in the LAPD. And what did that case become about? Racist cops in LAPD. Did they plant evidence because they just didn't like a black man and they wanted to make him go down? Did a racist cop who had known history of hating black guys just plant evidence? And is there a similar kind of situation? Can you turn the tables on this and make this about something about the healthcare system? So we'll see. All right. Any other comments, questions about that?
Not pretty much covering what you've been covering.
Okay. So I'm going to try to get through a couple things real quick because it's a little long. I usually go about an hour, but I've been telling myself I'm not going to force myself to shut off in an hour. So we're already past an hour. But let me tell you, there's a moment where I started to have to ask myself, is Karen playing games? And is she playing games? And let me see if I can pull this up on the screen to I've got too many screens going and I've lost my actual broadcast. Here it is. Okay. You see this article here. So this is an article, for example, from Fox News. There's a lot of different sites that are covering this. Luigi Mangioni's defense shared the same exact records. I'm adding the word exact here. Luigi Mangioni's defense shared the same exact records that they claimed constituted privacy violations, according to the prosecutors. So what they're saying is, and apparently it may be true, that Karen Ignifo herself actually sent the whole 120 pages of HIPAA documents to Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, when talking about this incident. And therefore, even she violated her own client's constitutional rights by providing HIPAA information to them. And so therefore, she's a hypocrite for saying that we're so bad because we did it when she did it as well. Now, Karen Ignifo, according to what, to read between the lines, Karen Ignifo realized they had made a mistake when they did that, and they immediately pulled it back. And so the prosecution's point is, oh, funny, you're okay with I made a mistake and I pulled it back, but you're not okay when we do it. At the end of so I have to ask myself, is Karen just playing games? Did she do that? It sounds like she did make the same mistake that they made. But there's two problems with that. Karen Ignifo is Luigi Mangioni's attorney. She has the right to speak on his behalf. If she and he, as a client duo, wants to give that information over to somebody, they can do so. She is his representative. It's his records. So if he authorizes his attorney to do it, she could do that on his, but the prosecution cannot. They are not representatives of Luigi Mangioni. So there's one case in which is different. And ultimately what Karen is saying is, you're not addressing the other issue. You lied about a court date that didn't exist. You lied about a subpoena that didn't exist. You threatened Aetna with legal repercussions if they didn't provide you the information. That's what the big issue is. Even beyond the fact that you violated his HIPAA violation, and maybe she did too. Okay, so there's that. But what she didn't do is she didn't lie about a court date. She didn't lie about a subpoena. She didn't threaten somebody with legal thing. She took the same document that was provided and she accidentally sent it to somebody as well. So you follow. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? How do you feel? Is she playing games? Is she a hypocrite because she did the same thing they did? Or is there a difference? Because she didn't come up with a fake court date and threaten somebody with legal action and threaten somebody if they didn't provide the documents that they were asking for, and call them on the phone and say, hey, by the way, you can just email it to us and privately rather than going to court. Like, she did a lot of things different than what they did. All right. Abby says Karen just literally responded to the email. I don't know if it's new that I'm not covering tonight. If so, I can't do much about that. I'm on a live. So what else? Here's another story I wanted to show. Warren Buffett donates a bunch of money or buys a bunch of stock. Warren Buffett, $1.6 billion stake, revives United Healthcare's share. United Healthcare is more profitable than ever. Their stock is doing tremendously because Warren Buffett bought a shit ton of their stock. So at the end of the day, what you have is a situation, is just, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. United Healthcare took a plummet after their CEO got shot. Listen, oh my God, listen to this. United Healthcare took a plummet when their CEO got shot and killed, and it became evident about a bunch of stuff that really was bad on United Healthcare. I'll try to be brief. I'm fucking not good at it. Pardon my F-bombs, but I get mad at this. Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and Andrew Whitty, his boss, essentially the CEO of United Health Group, the parent company of United Healthcare, both of them knew that the Department of Justice was investigating United Healthcare for things like what they were doing, which was they were buying up smaller companies. They were reducing competition. They were making themselves more and more profit, and their shareholders were making a shit ton of money. And it was illegal, according to the Department of Justice, what they were doing. So the Department of Justice was launching a full-scale investigation into the predatory practices of United Healthcare. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson and Whitty and others then did a sneaky move. They realized that it was going to come public soon, that the Department of Justice was investigating them collectively. And so they sold off a shit ton of United Healthcare stock at the high price before it took a shit. Because as soon as people found out that United Healthcare was under investigation by the Department of Justice, all of a sudden their stock might not do so well. Because if they get slapped with all kinds of fines and penalties, the company's not going to be as profitable and shareholders don't make as much money. But what happened was Brian Thompson, before he was shot and killed, and Whitty and others cashed out massive amounts of money at the high stock rate before it was become public that they were under investigation. Some might call that motivation for murder. Some might say somebody might have lost a fuck ton of money when their stock took a shit because of the practices of United Healthcare. That would drive some people to go kill somebody. Now you come in with the alternative suspects. Is it really Luigi Manjoni, or is it an investor who was pissed off? Because here's the irony. After United Healthcare stock took a shitter because their CEO died and it became clear that they were cashing out big sums of money and that they were under investigation and that they were supposed to testify before the Department of Justice, their stock started to dive, and shareholders sued United Healthcare for saying, where's our profits, bitch? I don't care that your CEO got killed. Where's our profits you promised us? We're suing you. You're not making good on the money you promised. We were just going to have an investor conference. You were going to tell us we were going to have the best season ever. We were going to make record profits. I don't really give a shit that Brian Thompson died. Where's my money, bitch? That's what they literally, that's the universal translator of what they did. The shareholders like, I don't care your guy died. Where's my money? So they sued. Warren Buffett now comes in and he gets $1.6 billion in stock or whatever and helps them rebound. And now they're doing great and shareholders are happy as fuck. Pardon my French. Sorry, I got a lot of F-bombs. I get mad. This is a passionate case for me. So there's that. So UHC, United Healthcare stock, better than ever. They're making tons of money again because the money protects the money.
As always.
As always. So it's funny that I have a thumbnail. I have a thumbnail about Luigi Manjoni and the musical, right? That's on the main screen. I haven't even talked about the musical. It was our lead. I had my nuts busted for that too. Like, Devil's Advocates, there's so much more important shit to talk about than the musical. I get it. First of all, I didn't even know Karen's letter dropped today when I made that thumbnail. So I was like, what the hell am I going to talk about today? Oh, we'll talk about the musical and some other things. And then all of a sudden the document dropped. I didn't have time to change the thumbnail. My bad. Watch the show, because who knows what I'm going to talk about. It might have anything to do with that thumbnail. And in fact, at this point, that whole thing is pointless. I'm trying to find my link to show it to you just because I said I was going to. But oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. Okay, you got it. Let's put that on screen. Luigi Manjoni, the musical, murder of healthcare exec, now playing out on stage. It is sold out in all kinds of places. By the way, somebody asked the musical, hey, since you're profiting off of Luigi Manjoni, are you going to put any of that money into his legal defense? Fuck no. But they're going to make a lot of money off that. So I just find this is ridiculous. It's almost a laughing stock. And now they're talking about what they call Luigiism, right? Which is people are trying to profit off of Luigi and his folk hero status. We have, for example, everything is now being related to Luigi in the shooter. There was a recent shooter in New York, right, that supposedly was retaliating against the NFL. Shot a cop and killed a cop, I believe, shot some other people inside the building, went up to the 33rd floor. Apparently it was the wrong floor. He was looking for somebody inside the NFL, some kind of beef about that. But you know what was all over the news? Oh my God, is it a copycat of Luigi Manjoni? How the frick does that have anything to do with Luigi Manjoni? These shootings are so different, it's not even funny. Luigi Manjoni, if he was the shooter, and for frick's sake, let's get this clear, Luigi Manjoni has a presumption of innocence until proven guilty in the court of law, and he had a mask on, whoever the shooter was. We don't know if it was Luigi Manjoni. But if it was, that shooter, whoever he was, took steps to make sure that nobody else was hit. Every shot that he fired hit the one person he meant. He didn't go into a building and shoot up a building of people and kill cops and all kinds of other people and innocent. That was a completely different type of crime and has nothing to do with this guy's personal beef against the NFL. And yet the media ran with the, oh my God, is it a copycat of Luigi Manjoni? There is no comparison to those cases. So there you go. At least I can say I did cover my thumbnail. Woohoo! And so with that, I'm going to leave some time for some questions and answers from you guys, and then we'll wrap up. And yeah, so yeah, let's do that. Questions and answers. I'll go back to full screen, and I'll get Robin up here maybe a little bit on here, and yeah, let's just talk about questions and answers. Anything?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. There's all kinds of great questions.
So somebody's got here, I'm going to work backwards. We got Inside Your Bones talking about Pelosi is evil and has done so much insider trading, and there have been no consequences whatsoever. Super long-winded right there, but let me show you, let me tease something I haven't teased for a while, which is devilsadvocates.info, my website. Let me see if I can pull this up on screen. Give me a second. The page load is taking forever. On my website right here, and I shouldn't be logged in as myself. Let's get logged out, and so you're not looking at the back end of WordPress, which, by the way, this is a freaking horrible theme. But anyways, across the top of my website up here, you'll see, let me blow it up a little bit for you. There's some links to Idaho 4, Luigi Manjoni, LISC. I started this project with this, which was a summary of the timeline starting in 2004. Look at these green things on screen. This is follow the money. I say follow the money. If you want to talk about all of the stuff that happened with the selling off of stock, Pelosi profiting off of the company that came to clean an unprecedented hack of United Healthcare's systems, too much for tonight's show. But if you're interested in following the money and the Pelosi story with too much for tonight, check this out. This is from devilsadvocates.info. Click on the link, Luigi Manjoni, and look at this. I haven't updated this for a long time. Someone told me, by the way, that they go to my timeline all the time looking for new stuff and they never see it updated. And I was like, I didn't think anybody even went here anymore. So I'm more inclined, especially if I can get some help from the minions, that's the group of people that help me out, to help populate this table a little bit. That would be fantastic. But anyways, follow the money. These green areas are the money, and it does include Pelosi's purchase of stocks in Palo Alto and how she profited off of that. Look at how much money stuff. There's a lot of money stuff involved in there. The decimation of the Hollywood Fire pension plan when Whitty and Brian Thompson cashed out. So there's a bunch of stuff for you if you want to dive into the case and you haven't seen it for a long time. All that green is the follow the money thing. So thank you so much for that question. All right, let's put us back on this. All right. Looking back through the history. If you see anything, Robin, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to work backwards.
Yep.
Inside Your Bones. Oh, you already had been featured. You get featured twice. By the way, didn't I say I was going to feature somebody specifically because it was like one of their first lives? I wonder if they're still in here and asked anything. I just want to say thank you, Lee. You're a legend. Oh, I'm making me blush. And keep your head up. Don't let haters get down on you because they suck. That's true. Thank you so much. That's super kind. Let's go. What else we got here? United Healthcare just closed at $304 a share, down $4 from yesterday. The all-time high was about $600, so they are still down. Renee, thank you for that clarification. I said they're better than ever. That's not true. They are better than they have been. I can't remember when the last time they were down that far. It's been like, was it 10 years? Something like that. So yes, it was a little rhetorical on my part. Not better than ever. Thank you for the fact check. And I'm okay with that. She's a moderator of mine. My moderator's busted my balls. I'm okay with that. It's not better than ever. So yes, you're right. They have been better at one point, but they have had a big, huge rebound. So my bad. I overstated that a bit. Let's go. What else? How will the defense explain Manjoni's alleged writings and manifesto in light of his background as a bright, successful individual? So for those who haven't heard, so a manifesto is a document that a person writes in order to be seen by the public so that the public will hear their ideologies and their thoughts and why they did the things to try to move public sentiment. What the attorneys stated in the case of Luigi Manjoni is Luigi Manjoni had no manifesto. At best, Luigi Manjoni had a notebook in his possession that contained private thoughts about how he felt about the insurance industry. They were private thoughts. Nowhere in the notebook does it say, please make this public to the U.S. population. Please publish this as a book called My Manifesto. There was nothing about that. It was private thoughts about his feelings about the healthcare system in general. It was the law enforcement itself who started out saying, this is a manifesto. Manifesto. You want to see Luigi Manjoni's manifesto? And they said it never became a manifesto, i.e. public consumption, until you made it public. It wasn't. Luigi Manjoni had no intention of that notebook being made public. So you calling it a manifesto is horseshit. So at the end of the day, how will America feel about it if Luigi Manjoni really did write some of the things about how bad the healthcare system is, but it's a matter of semantics that it's not a manifesto? He didn't intend for it to be made public. He wasn't trying to make a big, huge public statement. He was just mentioning how he feels the healthcare system is out of control. So that's a tough one. The DOJ is still investigating United Healthcare. Yes, that's true, which seems bizarre because the DOJ also wants the death penalty for Luigi. There's kind of an irony. Like the DOJ is against both UHC and Luigi Manjoni. Correct. So, and to be fair, just because we realize that something is wrong in America, it doesn't mean that we believe in vigilante justice, right? So they can both simultaneously say, yes, the healthcare system is predatory and needs to be fixed, but the answer isn't going to blow somebody away in the back on the downtown streets of New York because we don't believe in vigilante justice in this country. So it's to me, I can reconcile those two things. The Department of Justice does want to put a halt of United Healthcare's predatory measures, but we can't send the message in America that it's okay to go shoot somebody in the back when you feel somebody needs to be killed, because we don't believe in that kind of thing in America.
Lee, Abby has a great question.
Okay.
Is it possible for him to argue in defense of others without admitting guilt, or would he essentially have to admit he did it in that case?
Is there a way to use the in defense of others without admitting to the crime? Or would he essentially have to admit he did it for that? It seems to me, Abby, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've been told by some lawyers that I should have been a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer. But it seems to me that, yeah, you probably can't argue you did it in defense of others without admitting you did it. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand. If they're gonna go, and again, I've got attorney friends that say they're not. She just can't expect that that's how this is gonna go. That Karen's gonna have the balls to say it was a defense of other situation. But if they do, Karen has balls. Anyways, I digress. The point being is that it seems to me if you're going to say this was done to save lives, then you have to kind of admit that you did it, and here's why I did it. And then let a jury make the decision. Now, this is where it's a complex issue. This is where you get into what's called jury nullification. And a lot of people think that's where this is going. What is jury nullification? Jury nullification is the right of a jury to say, yeah, you did break the law, but we don't care. We're not going to hold you accountable for it. It's a very, very controversial thing in this country. The jury gets the ultimate decision on this case, and they don't have to explain themselves. So it is possible for a jury, for example, to see the evidence and say, did Luigi Manjoni on this day shoot this man in the back? Yes or no? Yes, he did. And what is the sentence? Not guilty. They have the right to do that, nor do they have to explain to the judge why. They can say, yes, he shot that man in the back on this day, and that's true, and the sentence is not guilty. They can do that. And that's what often is referred to as jury nullification. It's like the law does not address this particular issue. It doesn't explain that in some cases, maybe that was acceptable. Now, will that happen in this case? I don't think it's highly likely, but there's people who drive trucks around in New York that says jury nullification on it, just so that people in New York will start getting themselves educated on what jury nullification is. There are people out there who just do that all day long, driving a truck around. Jury nullification, don't forget, New Yorkers, jury nullification, it's a thing. Learn about it. Because here's the irony of jury nullification. No judge is allowed to tell a jury that they have the right to do that. It's supposed to be implied. So the jury is told, your decision is final. What you say is final. So that's implied. If you tell me he's not guilty, that's it. That's final. So I don't have to explain to you, hey, by the way, there's a case in which you can say he did it, but you're not going to hold him accountable. They're not supposed to tell you that. You're supposed to understand that yourself, because they don't want to go around telling people, hey, by the way, you got a loophole. You can get this guy off of murder. Now, what's more likely to happen in this case, as I finish my rant, is that Luigi Manjoni is likely going to, in my opinion, or at least has a fair chance of getting a hung jury. Meaning, can you find 12 New Yorkers in which none of them are convinced that there was a reasonable doubt or a justification for it, and say, I'm not going to sentence this man to death for something that I can see why he did it. I can sympathize with that. If they can't come up with a unanimous, and it's two parts, by the way, for the death penalty. Part one is, did he do it? And then after they say he did it, then they reconvene for is the only acceptable outcome in this case is death. So one, did he do it? And two, is the only real solution is killing him. And that's a second vote. But I think it's going to end potentially in a hung jury, where you're going to have somebody hold out, because Luigi Manjoni has a huge, huge folk hero status, where people think that Luigi Manjoni might be a good guy, that despite his methods, which might not be good, at the end of the day, you understand why he did it. And he loved people and he wanted to protect people. And if that's the case, and you get one juror out of 12 who thinks Luigi Manjoni is a hero in some way, and that it's just a complex issue that people don't understand, you got a hung jury. And then what will happen is the government will go back and say, let's try it fucking again until we get a jury that convicts. And if they go again and they get another hung jury, I think that's my guess. That's it. The government's not going to keep trying them all day long, every day, over and over and over again until they get 12 jurors to convict, because it costs a ton of money. And at some point, the taxpayers will say, enough. You've already tried them twice. You've had 2 hung juries. We're not going for a third one. The tolerance of the American people will start to weigh thin, and that could be it. So in my opinion, it's very possible Luigi Manjoni will get a hung jury, and possible multiple hung juries. And that in that scenario, there's a possibility that Luigi Manjoni could eventually walk if they don't convict him at all. The more likely scenario is Luigi Manjoni, in my opinion. I'm just guessing. I'm not an attorney, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. So the point being is that, sorry, it's an old joke. I can't help with the freaking old jokes. The point being is that more than likely, Luigi Manjoni is going to be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, but he won't get executed. That's my guess. The ultimate thing, after all is said and done, when this is all over in a year or two, Luigi Manjoni probably is spending the rest of his life in jail without the possibility of parole, but won't be executed. But we'll have to see. Any other questions? Looking through here.
Yeah, I'm not
seeing anything jumping out at you.
No.
All right. That's good, because I'm a little tired and I've gone 22 minutes longer than I normally go. So thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, Robin, for helping out with the moderation of the channel. Thank you, by the way, for all those who helped me re-jumpstart our algorithm. I kind of broke my YouTube channel for a while. We were getting no growth. We're growing again. So yay for me and yay for those who want to see the channel grow. I've got a lot of people who feel like they're vested in growing this channel like I am. So for those of you who want to see that, we won. We seem to be growing again, not as fast as we were, but we seem to be growing again. So thank you all for who helped out with that. And you can also help out by, if you're not already, subscribe to us tonight. Share with my stream with somebody else. Let somebody else know about me. Hey, by the way, if you know about this case, you got to listen to Devil's Advocates. Do something like me. That would be nice. Or you don't have to pay any money. Just spread some love. That would be amazing. Other than that, I am out. Robin, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, who came in. Thank you, 1-1, for donating free memberships to those. I hope some people got some free memberships. If you did get a free membership tonight, please let me know when you leave a comment on a member-only video that I'm here because I got a free membership. Thank you very much. That'll let me know that you guys are appreciating those free gifts as well. Otherwise, that's it. Tomorrow, last thing I'll say, tomorrow, I'm having a big interview with John Ray, the attorney representing families in the Long Island serial killer case. Because of how much effort that's going to take me, it is possible I will be canceling my 6 p.m. live. I'm going to do a recording with him earlier in the day, so I'm going to play it by ear whether or not I'm going to do that live later that night. It's going to be potentially a very emotional discussion. It's going to take a lot out of me. I got to work with multiple people to get it to happen. It's got a lot of technicalities, and my days have been nuts. And by the way, last thing. I keep saying last thing for the 7th last thing. I've got another kind of cool thing coming up this weekend, a surprise thing. I'm going to only tell members about it. It's a surprise thing. It doesn't relate to my cases directly. It does relate to the channel indirectly, but it's something about me personally. So if you want to hear something interesting about me personally and what I'm going to be doing all day on Saturday, check it out in the members only area. Other than that, you guys have a great night. Thanks for coming. Got merchandise on sale at devilsadvocates.info/shop. I think that covers everything. Going to crime. See, one last thing for the 17th time. I'm going to CrimeCon very shortly, September 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 6th. Anyways, very early September. So again, on my website, if you want to buy me a donut or a lunch, that'd be great as well. I'm going to go to CrimeCon. There's ways to donate on my web page. So enough selling me. Go do the right thing. Like, hit, smash, follow, share, whatever you need to do to get some love out there. That's free. Take it easy. Have a good night.